Forests are an intricate ecosystem on Earth which contain trees, shrubs, grasses, and a home for a plethora of wild animals and birds. Not only that, the immense significance forests can give to humankind are undeniable, regardless of the threats coming from human activities. The conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity and the equitable sharing of benefits arising from the utilization of genetic resources becomes a challenge for humankind. The ecosystem approach is believed to offer a powerful strategy for the integrated management of forests. To explore this together, we will uncover 4 important points. 1. What are ecosystem approaches and its principles? 2. The concept of ecosystem approach in forest land conservation and sustainable forest management. 3. Tools for developing ecosystem-based approaches. And 4. Efforts and experiments in implementing ecosystem approaches for forest land conservation. Hi, my name is Nur Qistina, and in this video, I'm going to explain to you about what are the ecosystem approaches and its principles. In 1995, at the second meeting of the Convention on Biological Diversity, Conference of the Parties affirmed that conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity and its components should be addressed in a holistic manner, and the ecosystem approach should be the primary framework for action under the convention. So, at the 5th conference of the parties, they described the ecosystem approach as a strategy for the integrated management of land, water, and living resources that promotes conservation and sustainable use in an equitable way. An ecosystem approach is based on the use of relevant scientific approaches focused on biological organization levels. This includes the key structure, processes, functions, and interactions between organisms and their environment. Also, it recognizes the people with diverse cultural practices are an essential component of many ecosystems. It means that our interaction plays an important role to our ecosystem. There are 12 principles of ecosystem approach. It is also known as the Malawi principles. These principles are complementary and interlinked. And when looking at the 12th principle that say the ecosystem approach should involve all relevant sectors of society and scientific disciplines, we definitely can see that this approach is holistic, that it includes all parties in action without any discrimination. Forest conservation is a practice of planting and maintaining forested areas for future generations' benefit and sustainability. It involves the preservation of natural resources within a forest that benefit both humans and environment. On the other hand, sustainable forest management is the use of forest lands in a way that preserves their biodiversity, productivity, regeneration capacity, vitality, and potential to fulfill relevant ecological, economic, and social functions at the local, national, and global levels for now and in the future, while also causing no harm to other ecosystems. So, here we can see the correlation between forest conservation and SFM. But how that it is related to ecosystem approach? The two concepts, sustainable forest management and the ecosystem approach, seek to promote conservation and management techniques that are environmentally, socially and economically sustainable, and that also benefits for both current and future generations. According to Convention on Biological Diversity in 2004, sustainable forest management (SFM) is viewed as a means of applying the ecosystem approach to forest. When discussing about the tools to develop ecosystem-based approaches, it is important for us to just know that there are 5 points, as you can see here, that will be the operational guidance before implementing ecosystem approaches tools. The first tool that I want to share is a specialized software system called as Ecosystembased Vista, a decision support tool for ecosystem-based management. Ecosystembased Vista enables users to create, evaluate, implement, and monitor land use and resource management plans within the context of existing economic, social, and political constraints. It does this by integrating conservation information, natural resource management practices, and land use patterns and policies into a single GIS-based decision support framework. Ecosystembased Vista generates XML reports exportable as HTML files with embedded maps. Reports are available for all elements and analyzers, easily published online, and can be exported to software programs such as Microsoft Word or Excel. The second tool is the Integrated Risk Analysis Framework. IRA framework is comprised of 4 major components that are linked by a common geographic structure. Component 1 comprises of various agents of change to predict future landscapes that may result from a natural disturbance. Component 2 models the impacts of any proposed future landscapes on various forest values. These forest values of concern can be ecological, social, and cultural or economic values. Component 3 conducts an integrated risk analysis to evaluate the relative effects of various agents of change on economic, social, and ecological forest values. Lastly, Component 4 assesses the outcomes of trade-off analysis relative to the objective and makes recommendations based on that assessment. For example, an IRA assessment of a proposed forest management plan may be illustrated as in this figure. You can see here that a future forest landscape is simulated, the effects of various forest values assessed, risks are evaluated and assessed as to their acceptability, yes or no, and plans implemented if the outcomes are acceptable, or modified in an interactive assessment loop if it is unacceptable. The third tool is the socio-economic approaches that includes the foothills, model forests, and natural resource accounting. The foothills model forests go through a process of developing a set of local level indicators of sustainable forest management that includes a variety of biophysical, economic, social indicators. This enables land managers to assess the relative performance of resource management policies. On the other hand, natural resource accounting involves applying a value to all of the net benefits flowing off a landscape. For example, this account values the stock and flow services from the foothills model forest, considers the market activities such as forestry, tourism, trapping and fishing, and also non-market activities such as recreational hunting, biodiversity maintenance, and environmental control service. There are 2 examples that I want to show you for the implementation of the ecosystem approaches for forest land conservation. The first one is in Nova Scotia, Canada. Here, this implementation is divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is Ecosystem Classification Framework. In this framework, they divided into the Ecological Land Classification (ELC) for Nova Scotia, Natural Disturbance Regime and Potential Climax Forest Interpretations, and a Forest Ecosystem Classification (FEC). Part 2 is the Integrated Resource Management Planning System. IRM process is to coordinate planning among resource sectors to optimize multiple benefits and minimize conflicts. It consists of a strategic, tactical, and operational planning system led by the Department of Natural Resources. Lastly, Part 3 is the Regulatory and Policy Framework. Nova Scotia Resource Planning System is supported and guided by a wide array of acts, regulations, and policies. For examples, the Crown Lands Act amended in 1989 and the Environmental Goals and Sustainable Prosperity Act 2007. The second example is in Australia. Here, the application of the ecosystem approach to forest policy development is under the Regional Forest Agreements. In Australia, the National Forest Policy Statement, criteria for assessing and determining forest reserve, regional forest agreements, sustainability indicators, and the Australian Forestry Standard for voluntary certification are key elements in the Australian approach to sustainable forest management practice. And they also ensure that the ecosystem approach to ecologically sustainable forest management is implemented only within the secure institutional arrangements. To sum up, ecosystem approach is a complex system to be implemented in forest land conservation, but it is possible with the proper management and the cooperation from the experts and quality skilled teams, like how it has been proven in Australia and Canada. The promotion of the ecosystem approach in education and public awareness activities need to be strengthened, and submission of case studies and lessons learned have to be continued. Forest is a precious God's gift to us. It's okay to have attempts over attempts, trials over trials to conserve it, rather than losing it completely. Because I won't give up. Would you?
Well, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love. I'm still looking up.